Morning, YouTube. Uh, so I guess I'm gonna do another video. I said I was gonna do this today. I want to get it over with. About emotional eating. Um, to kind of go into that, a lot of people are like, well, a lot of people say, oh yeah, when I'm depressed, I eat something, blah blah blah. We eat things we're not supposed to eat, um, which is true, but emotional eating is a lot bigger issue than that. Um, Emotional eating, as far as like people eat when they're happy, people eat when they're sad. A lot of things revolve around food, and uh, it's kind of scary how things revolve around food, because food is supposed to be sustenance, and especially in this country, it's not what it's about. It's a social thing. It's an addictive thing. Uh, it's a comfort thing. Uh, so, uh, to kind of go back with talking about my experience with emotional eating, I suffer from bipolar disorder. So it means that I also deal with a lot of depression. So eating was always a big deal with me. If I got depressed about anything, it was a binge. You know, it's get depressed, go buy an entire cake and eat it, or pizza, or things like that. Uh, or even sometimes when I was excited about something, you know, it was a celebratory thing. It's like it shouldn't have been. Same thing, whole cake, whole pizza. Get excited, go out to dinner all the time about something. So it kind of goes both ways with emotions and in eating. So I dealt a lot with eating things I shouldn't, especially when I was depressed, and then feeling guilty about it. So and weight gain and things like that. My biggest weight gain, I think, well, I did, to go back, the last time I really seriously tried losing weight was back in 2006, I think. And I was doing really well. I had lost 50 pounds in 6 months. I know that seems kind of low now, considering. But 50 pounds in 6 months, got down to 250 with the weight I am now, about where I am now. I got down to that, and I was living on my own, and I was doing really well because I was living on my own, you know, because I was controlling everything I ate. And then, you know, at the time, my partner at the time, she moved in with me. And she could cook. So, watching what I ate to a T kind of slacked. So I started gaining a little bit. And then I started having problems with my depression again. And after a while, because I was stressed out I was finishing up grad school, didn't know if I was going to be able to find a job or if I was going to be able to go on and get my PhD. So there were a lot of things up in the air. So my depression got bad again, and I started eating a lot again. And then my illness took control again, and split up with my partner. And so I moved back home with my parents, and I wasn't watching what I was eating. So I gained everything back, and then over time, you know, my weight was probably staying fairly stable. I mean, it was bad, but it was still stable for a long time. And then I moved out on my own again. And I said I was going to do really, really well when I moved out on my own again. And I knew I needed to start watching what I was eating because I was on, I was on hormone replacement therapy, and I was going to gain weight if I didn't. And I didn't care. I ate what I wanted anyway. I was hungry all the time. When you're on hormones, you want to eat everything in sight. So I was doing that. So I said I was going to do better when I moved out on my own. And I think I got lonely, living by myself. So I started eating more, and I think I gained about 150 pounds in a year. Because I wasn't eating, I was used to, when I was living with my family, I was used to cooking for multiple people and things like that. And so I wasn't doing that anymore, but I was still cooking like I was. So, I make an entire pot of chili and it lasts me 3 days. When you're making a big pot, you shouldn't, that should have lasted me like a week, if not more. So it was rough dealing with stuff like that, and taking control. I hit a breaking point emotionally with the eating and things like that in July of 2014. 2015 in July. And I was using a bariatric walker half the time because I couldn't walk. I couldn't stand for more than 5 minutes at a time. I could barely walk. My clothes were starting to not fit anymore, and I was at a 6X. And that was a big problem. So I ended up in the hospital for emotional issues. And I told the doctor, you got to get me off these meds. A lot of the meds I was taking for bipolar disorder, they made me gain weight. On top of the fact what I was already doing to myself with weight, that wasn't helping. So I needed him to get me off of those. So we stripped down my medications, and then stripped down my medications, and then I lost 6 pounds inside a month to start. And I noticed that I started to feel better emotionally because I was losing weight. Yeah, I had all my other issues with my illness and things like that, but it was helping to not have to worry about, my weight being a happiness thing. Yeah, I was upset because I was still big, but, you focus on the positive when you start losing. So that was helping a lot. So I realized just how much my emotions played into my dealing with food, because the better I got, the better I felt. The better I felt over time with the weight loss. The less I wanted to binge eat and things like that, because I realized I was happier. So the happier I was, the less I wanted to do that. I mean, still, like I was saying before, I believe I was saying before, people eat when they're happy, people eat when they're sad. Yeah, when I go to celebratory stuff, it's hard to just say, okay, I'm just going to have this. When you want to really go all out and things like that. That's hard. But I'm learning to not do that. People don't realize emotions play a lot into eating, because food is an addiction, or food can become an addiction. And in my case, it definitely was an addiction. And it's one of the worst. This is my opinion, and people can probably disagree with me if they want to. But if they do, they probably aren't in the same situation. I feel like food is a worse addiction than a lot of things because, unlike alcohol and recreational drugs, you need food to live. You can't just say, okay, I'm not going to do this anymore, and just never eat. You can't do that. So it's a harder thing because you still have to monitor. It's like, it'd be like if you had to have alcohol to live. Let me compare that. If you had to have alcohol to live, you had to learn to be able to go to, like, imagine if you had to go to the bar and you had to be able to just do one drink. And that's all you could do. It's like, that's all you're supposed to do. Imagine that. How hard would that be if you love the idea of drinking and drinking heavily? It's become such a solid thing in your life. Imagine having to do that because you have to. Even though you feel like you should not want to because it's been so hard on your life. That's kind of how I feel about food. It's hard because it's like I don't want to eat all the time anymore. I try, but sometimes it's very hard emotionally to, if things are going bad or if I'm having a rough day, to not want to turn to that. So for anyone who's dealing with, with that, it's one of those, you gotta start out slow. It's like getting off of anything else that you shouldn't be doing. Moderation. I saw a lot of stuff in the last week with people must have, everyone gets the New Year's resolution, the New Year, New Me thing. And I saw a lot of upshot of people at the gym and stuff like that. And people have said, "Oh, don't worry, it'll fall off in like a month." Because most people, they get real gung ho about stuff, and then, they try to keep up with it. But if they're not used to it, it's hard to keep up with it. So they fall off and they don't do it as regularly as that. It gets too hard. The same way with food. It's the same thing with food. If you're trying to control your diet and change your diet, you got to change your outlook on food, but you don't have to do it all at one time. That's my advice to people. Especially if you're an emotional eater, because if you're going to get upset, because like the last few times that I tried to diet for bariatric surgery and things, I tried to go gung-ho and all out and stop everything at one time. And I was in tears half the time because I'm like, I want to eat, I'm hungry. It wasn't until I started dieting on my own that I realized that I needed to do everything in moderation. Like I started out going from eating all the wrong things, like, who needs a double quarter pounder? I obviously at the time thought I did. So going from doing that to just being like, I'm gonna have a cheeseburger, and then going, well, let's try a salad. So you gotta moderate how you do things. So for your emotional health, that's another thing with emotional eating. It's like if you don't taper yourself off of stuff. For people who are trying to lose weight now, taper yourself off. If you're doing way too excessive on things, just scale back how much you're eating, then try to change what you're eating. Otherwise, you're just going to get upset, and you're going to fail. Even if your health is very much impacted by, like mine was very, I still have sleep apnea. I haven't lost enough to get rid of that yet. But I had high blood pressure when I started. I don't anymore. My knees are much better now. So even if you have a lot of things health-wise that are making it to where you need to get the weight off quickly, still give yourself the emotional time to adjust to that. So moderate to start, and get things, down from there and change from there for your mental health sake. So that's the best advice I can give. And then also, it's more sustainable. You're more likely to stick with what you're doing if you're just moderate at start and just do things slowly. If you go slow, then you're more likely to stick with things. So I think that's about all I wanted to say about emotional eating, and how just be mindful. That's the biggest thing. Be mindful about how you're feeling and how that connects to food, because most people don't think about it enough. And that's the part people, that's the mindlessness about it, and surrounding food, and how it's impacted by our feelings and things like that, and how our feelings play into our want for food, and our socialization with food, which is something I want to talk about in another video. How much connection there is between food and socialization, which also plays into the mental health arena of things. But yeah, I think that's what I wanted to say about emotional eating. If anyone wants to comment, we can keep the discussion going if I miss something, but it's an important thing and you gotta be conscious of it. So I think that's all I wanted to say. Alright, I will do another video tomorrow, and I think I'll either do social eating or something else, debating. I haven't figured out what I want to do. I'm going to start trying to get more organized for these videos, but as topics have come in my head, I wanted to get them out. I'm going to try and up the quality of my videos too, so see what I can do. Alright, I'll see you tomorrow.